Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's episode of A Journal for All Seasons. Now over the this will be the fourth week, I've been working with kind of tools and things that I used in the moon stitching project that I shared with you recently. So this was the first spread, this was the second, and then last week we did this paper weaving. I still haven't corrected my error of I shouldn't have cut down the sides. I'll do that at a later date after I've done this video probably, otherwise I'll forget. If you see it still like that next week, then I've forgotten. But anyway, I've got this one black page left that I gessoed with black gesso, and then after that we're moving on to, you know, other things. So what I want to do is I've got this little stack of tea bags that I used to dye my cloth for the moon stitching project. It's a few videos back if you want to go back and look it up. I'll try and remember to put a link down below if you don't know what I'm talking about. So I've got a little stack of them. Now I've also got these hiding in here, which I Momigamied in a recent video as well. And I did think about using these, but I don't think I'm going to use them for this. I think I'm going to save those for something else, which will come up at some point whenever, you know, I think about what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to use just the normal tea bags. So these were just tea bags. I've had a rusty washer. I put my piece of cloth in the bowl, I put my rusty washer, and I put my tea bag after I'd had my morning tea on the top, that way up obviously, and it's printed. So the tea bags are also beautiful. So I need 3 more because I've done a little bit already of what I'm going to do. So I'll put the rest of those away. I'll put the journal away for now because I'm going to create a piece that I'm going to just stick on there and write something at the end. So I'll just put the journal to one side for now. And oh, a little key's come off. I'll have to put that back on. And bring this in because I'm going to do some stitching. But I'm not going to stitch cloth, I'm going to stitch tea bags. So what I thought I'd do is I thought I would make a 9-patch using a method that Jude Hill calls paperless piecing. Jude Hill is Spirit Cloth. She does have a YouTube channel. She hasn't posted videos for a long time, but do check out her lovely blog, which I think is called Cloth Whisperer. But if you Google Jude Hill, you'll find her if you don't know who she is. Anyway, she does a method of like paper piecing, but she creates one template and then she folds the cloth around it, creases it, takes the template away and stitches on the creases. So I thought, well, that method would work very well with tea bags. So I've got 3 here. I'm going to make a 9-patch. Now I have made a start, which I'll show you in a minute. So if I'm imagining that this is going to be the bottom row of my 9-patch. A 9-patch, if you don't know, is literally 9 squares of cloth sewn together in a checkerboard, usually cloth. We're going to use tea bags. So if I'm imagining this is my bottom row, because I'm going to leave them raw edge. It's not really a raw edge because it's paper, but I'm not going to turn a seam on this corner, I'm not going to turn a seam on this edge, and I'm not going to turn a seam on this corner. So I'm going to take my template, I'm going to just work with this one first. So I'm going to decide which is my outside corner and put this on the wrong side. These, by the way, are double-sided. They're still just the tea bag. I just made a little nick in the top and got the tea out. So I'm going to designate that the corner. I hope that makes sense. So I don't need to fold those in. But these other 2 sides where I'm going to stitch them to the adjacent ones, I need to crease. So they're quite sturdy, but they're not as sturdy as cloth. So you do have to be a little bit careful. I'm not going to do any trimming or anything. That's quite big because my tea bags are rectangular. My template is 2 inches square, but obviously that will depend on the size of your tea bag. If you had round tea bags, then you could, I guess, put a small tiny square in the middle of them and make them into a square. But yeah, my tea bags are rectangular. So I've made 2 quite sharp creases there. So that will be that corner. This one only needs 1 edge left unfolded. So because they're rectangular, I'm going to turn it through 90 degrees. So because I need a seam here and a seam here. So that gives me a bit more to play with. So again, I'll line the bottom edge up with my template, fold the two sides in and crease them. It's handy if you've got thinnish card so that you can get a nice sharp crease, you know, when you make your template. And then I need to fold that one top edge in as well. So that'll be the middle bottom, and then this one here will be the corner. So I've turned it. I didn't really need to turn it, but I wanted to make sure that this little dark piece was in the corner. So again, I'll just line up the two sides with the edge of my template and then fold in the other two sides. And with all these things, when I'm doing, you know, normal patchwork as well, I always like to have things laid out, otherwise I make a mistake if I can't see what I'm supposed to be doing. So those three will be joined together in a line. And I'm going to use my red silk that I've used all along for my stitching. So I'm going to pick up my first two pieces, put them right sides together just as if they were cloth, and match up the, let's call it the raw edge for want of a better word, the unfolded edge. And then I want to get these other two folds up out of the way. I don't want to stitch them down. So I'm going to just rearrange that fold and then make sure that they match as well. You know, if you want to be, I go all finicky and accurate when I start doing patchwork, apparently. So, because I'm not going to stitch past there, I'm just going to stitch along that edge there. And you want to be sure, I've got two strands, this is red, this is silk, but you could use any cotton, I guess, any stitching cotton. I wouldn't use anything super thick. If I was using embroidery floss, I guess I'd use one or two strands as well. Now you have to hold it because you can't really pin. If you pinned, you'd leave a hole because it's paper, obviously. And then I'm not pulling the stitches up tight at all. Number one, because I don't want to risk tearing it, and number two, because I want to be able to open the seam up in a minute, so they need a bit of leeway. So I'm just doing little overcast stitches about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. You don't want to make them too close to the edge because they might tear, and you don't want to go too far in because it will make it harder to open them up. And I'm just going to do that all the way up until I meet the fold line at the other end. With this tiny bit of thread that hopefully will last the distance. The others that I've done already, I'll show you in a bit when I come to assemble the whole 9-patch. It is, once you get over the, oh, I'm stitching paper, oh, it's really fragile. Actually, it's surprisingly sturdy. I guess it's designed to go in hot water. These are biodegradable tea bags. They don't have any plastic in. Some tea bags do. You do have to be careful with that if you're composting them. Right, so I'm nearly to that fold line, which probably you can't see, but I can. It's just there. So I'm going to just take one last stitch just before that line, and then I'm going to take another stitch on the spot and then go through that loop before I pull it up with my needle just to make a little knot. I mean, this is not, you know, it's going to be stuck in my journal, so it's not going to take any strain or anything like that. And then you want to open it up. You see that's the side, that's the wrong, so-called wrong side. And then you just want to gently ease it. I'm not really pulling, I'm just sort of easing those two tea bags gently apart, just so the stitches lay flat. And then what happens then is those two creases that I made, can you see, kind of butt up against each other rather than being overlapped. See, up there I went a bit tight, so it was a little bit creased, but down there where I kept it nice and loose, they lay butted up nicely. So that's those first two joined. So now I'm going to join this one to that one in exactly the same way. I need to get more thread and all that. And I'll be back when I've done that. I'll show you the rest of it. Okay, I've done that, so I've got my 3 tea bags all in a row, One thing to say, when I'll bring in the other bit, so this was the bit I prepared in advance, so this here I did exactly the same thing as before, and here I did what will end up being the middle. So these two pieces had the opposite sides and the three sides folded in, the same as this one, but then the middle one had to have all its four sides folded in, obviously because it's the middle. So when you're choosing what size template, these have still got T in some of them, you do need to make sure that you can get away with folding all four sides for the centre. I could just about do it with this 2-inch template. I could just about fold over 1/4 of an inch, because obviously with the others, like I said, I could turn it rectangular and, you know, get bigger seams, but just bear that in mind. Choose a template size that you can fold all four sides for the middle one. Right, so I don't need the template anymore. So now it's just simply a job of getting these two pieces right sides together as before. And then I'm just going to match up the junction there. I'm just going to check both of them actually. There's not a lot you can do because they're not stretchy like cloth, but you know, just do your best and go with the flow. And now I can just stitch all the way along. I don't need to, I can stitch through the folds, I don't need to worry about any of that. So I'm just kind of got it trapped in my hand, so hopefully it stays where it should be. And I'm just going to do a running stitch all the way along. Not a running stitch, a whip stitch, an overcast stitch. Again, 1/8 of an inch in and not pulling it too tightly. And it does feel good to have kind of resolved this. You know, if you were following along with the moon stitching, you will know that I had trouble with the words and choosing the words, and I know many of you have as well. And I think going through this process over the last 4 weeks of working with the materials from the moon stitching project and using them in my journal and giving some thought to why it was difficult and so on, experimenting with words like I've been doing with the, it's not really asemic writing I've been doing because I was intending them to be words, but making them illegible, you know, and the words I've chosen, the visible words that I've chosen to put on, which were words fail me, word wide web, and difficult choosing words. I've got 3 more words for this week, which I think brings the whole thing to a neat, you know, a wrap. What do they call it? Conclusion. It's not really a conclusion because it's all process and all that, but just for, let's say, this stage of the journey. So when I come to the little junction point here, it's a bit thicker because of the folds, but I just stitch on. I'm going to hop across to the other side, again not pulling it too tight. So yeah, so it's been really helpful. So I could have finished that moon stitching project, thought, oh, that wasn't very satisfactory in some ways, and just put it to one side, but I'm really glad that I carried on with it and did this, and that is thanks to this journal. I mean, this is the first year I've kept this kind of journal. I think it just speaks to that journaling process that it encouraged me. I don't like to say made and should and words like that. It encouraged me to think about it further, and it's actually turned out to be really helpful. So I'm very glad for that. I'm very grateful I'm here to share that with you. If it hadn't been for committing to making this journal this year with you, then maybe that wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't have been the process that I'd followed. So once you get past the slight trepidation I had of stitching tea bags. I have stitched them before, but I've stitched onto them, and I think in the past I've waxed them in the same way that I wax leaves. You can do that as well. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I've got a video going back somewhere, I think in the eco printing playlist, about waxing real leaves with leftover candle wax. You can do exactly that same process with tea bags if you don't want to go down the Momigamied route, or you don't want to use, you know, matte medium or PVA or something like that. You can also wax them, and I've done that in the past and then stitched them onto pieces and stitched into them. But this is the first time I've used them as if they were a cloth and actually stitched them together. I have of course seen over the years here and there in social media and whatever other people stitching them together, so I did know it was possible. But as nothing beats trying it yourself. I'm hoping my thread's going to last till the end, but I'm not entirely confident that it will. It's really slightly annoying that you have to get a new bit just for that last ½ inch or so, but I'm going to play thread chicken. Are you all holding your breath for me? And then what happens is you pull it out of the needle and then you have to change threads anyway. I might just get away with it. Oop. It's kind of apt that the last stage of this journey might have a little bit of anxiety attached to it. I don't think I can get it through, so I'm just going to have to leave it like that. Trim it off, leave a little tail. Okay, so I need to open that seam up in the same way. Just gently, gently. I'm literally just kind of laying it against my finger and easing it apart. And it's just, I think it's beautiful. I think it would be lovely to make a great big piece like that and then work onto it. Whether I will or not, because I've got so much else on at the moment, but you know, I've just logged it away in my brain. And what I do with these ideas is I don't write them down anywhere. This is just me. It's in my brain somewhere. If it rises up to the top again at some future date and gets developed further, then so be it. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm just going to say, oh well, apparently that wasn't, you know, one of the ideas that I wanted to commit any more time to. So, but it is. It's lovely, isn't it? I'm really happy with that. And then the back is also cool. You could have that way up if you liked, with all the seams. And I even like that they're all different sizes. Now I'm wondering whether you could, if you stitch that onto cloth, if it would be sturdy enough for a rice bag, a tea bag, a tea rice bag, a rice tea bag, one of those. But this, like I said, is for my journal. So I'm going to put this away and get my journal back in. And I'm going to just stick it on there. Now I think I'm just going to use double-sided tape because I'm worried that matte medium or something like that would soak through. So I think I shall do that off camera because I need to get my head in and line it all up and all that. But I'll just put it there where I'm going to put it. And then once I've stuck that on there, I've got my rusty washer that I use for my printing. This is still, I don't think I've treated it yet. No, it's still rusty. So I want to put that just right there in the middle. And I think I'm going to endeavour to glue that on with the stinky glue. This stuff, I think it's like Fabri-Tac, or that this isn't Fabri-Tac, but it's the one that smells, you know, the solvent-based one, behind there. But before I do that, I'm going to paint this, at least its top side, with a bit of matte medium, or you could use PVA or something like that, just to seal the rustiness. You know, just because it's in a journal and it might get handled and so on. But I'll do all that later. I'm sorry, I maybe should have done that in advance, but so I just want to share with you my words. I've got my jelly pen, my white jelly pen, and I'm going to write them just by hand. I think I'm going to write them just down here. I might put that a bit higher to balance that this is lower, so they're kind of offset. And just going to write them in my own handwriting, maybe in capitals. No. Words. needed. Which is what I've learnt, really, I think, from this whole process, that sometimes you don't need words. There are other ways. There's creativity, there's just sitting and thinking about things, there's maybe reading books on the subject of, you know, whatever it is, listening to music, going out into nature. There's just so many different ways of processing emotions. You don't have to be able to put them into words, Catherine, I'm telling myself. And certainly not an arbitrary choice of 3 words a day. When I thought of this, no words needed, it made me think of some things that I can think of a couple of examples that make me chuckle. You know, when you get those kind of either instruction books or pamphlets or whatever, often there are end papers that are blank, and then typed in very small letters, often at the bottom of those end papers, it says, "This page has deliberately been left blank." And that always makes me go, no it hasn't, because it says on it, this page has deliberately been left blank. And another one is, you know, in the UK, at the side of the road, sometimes there are signs that they can write on whatever they want if there's traffic, roadworks or whatever. They're often solar powered these days. They're just like mobile signs that they can move around. Sometimes you see those and it says on them, "Sign not in use." Which again makes me go, it is in use, because it's in use telling you that it's not in use, which is interesting to think about. Anyway, so yeah, so that was my conclusion of the word thing. The lovely experience of making a 9-patch out of tea bags. Do have a go if you feel so inspired. Do let me know if you've already done stitching with tea bags, and you know, if you've done other things, and if you're happy to share that here in the comments or in the Facebook group. Indeed, do share pictures of your tea bag related projects in the Facebook group. And thank you so much for watching and for being here with me on this self-care journaling journey. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more journaling tales. Until then, lots of love and kisses. Bye bye.